Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Today we have Eric, and he is the president of Nexus Cyber. Eric, can you tell us a little about yourself and the company?
Name's Eric Vanderburg. I've been into technology and cybersecurity pretty much my entire life. I think if you are in cybersecurity, you come from a couple of different molds. And many people come from the group that wants to break things, wants
Mhm.
to figure out how something works and looks at it from the eye of the attacker. Like, how would somebody exploit this? The other side is the kind of hard line. Here are the rules, and I'm going to implement them. The ex military or NSA people who have all the guidelines. I'm a bit more of the former. I like to break things, and I'm always thinking, how would somebody screw this up? And then that helps you, come up with how you're going to protect against that. So it's a good mindset that's helped me cultivate that more proactive mindset. How's somebody going to break it? How are we going to fix it?
You spent a lot of time around hackers, and like you said, right, with a person that maybe like internet deviants, right? Around I believe the early '90s. What was
Mhm.
the world kind of like back then compared to what we're dealing with now in cybersecurity?
Well, it really was completely different. For one thing, there were hardly any laws against hacking per se. But
Mhm.
there was like basically the telecom rules. That
Mhm.
was it. And we were connecting over phone lines. So there
Mhm.
was like telephone abuse or something like that act, which didn't give the government much leeway in actually prosecuting. And then that made hackers feel pretty comfortable to just do what they were going to do because they knew that unless it was extremely egregious, they probably weren't going to get, even if they got caught, they weren't going to go to jail.
Mhm.
So that was the weird environment that we operated in. And yeah, I would talk with these guys and, learn techniques and exchange stuff on old, bulletin board services. That these are, if somebody have a server running at their house or workplace, and if you knew the phone number, you dial into that, connect to it, and then it was like a forum, where people would all talk about different topics and stuff like that. So that was, I guess, the community. And then people were actually going out and breaking into systems and, changing data and whatever and exchanging tool sets and different ways to exploit systems. But I mean, security was completely different to the point where if you wanted to get into somebody's email, you could, and it was like a Hotmail account back at
Mhm.
that time, you could just put the information in and then basically just tell it like cancel when, when you're going to go through the password screen, and it would just give you somebody's email. It's just dumb.
Mm.
All the
Yeah.
things that people forgot about. The same thing was like logging into somebody's computer. You pretty much kill the login application, you can get right in.
Mhm. Insane, insane. Cybersecurity has come a very long way. Now, let's kind of talk about your journey. You were with some past companies that got then acquired by larger companies, and spent some time being a division vice president of a cybersecurity division for around a couple years. What made you walk away from that and start your own cybersecurity firm?
Yeah, I guess it's all been kind of so I worked at Jurnoff, and then Jurnoff was acquired by TCDI, and then I worked at TCDI for a while, and then TCDI spun off the cybersecurity business and said, "Ah, we're selling that." So that was when I left and started Nexus. I was like, okay, well, you sell that one off, and then some of the people from TCDI came and joined me, and
Okay.
we were able to change focus a little bit, but we're doing a
Hmm.
lot of the same things, and then
Hmm.
with the addition of a few new services.
How did those early days kind of pan out? From you guys started the company around 2024. Tell me about those little early beginnings and from then all the way up from now.
Well, it's always a challenge to try to get your name out,
Hmm.
and we weren't approaching the same customers.
Hmm.
Those wanted the sale. So you're talking to people and doing cold calls and going to events and telling people about what you do. So it
Hmm.
was kind of going back to like the early days at Journoff. It was, but it's kind of exciting at the same point.
Hmm.
And we were able to really streamline things and try new things. That was where we did more work with AI and with reputation management and things like that.
How did your customer change, and who is your guys' ideal customer now that you guys give the best service to?
It's small and medium-sized businesses, not mostly the large companies. We're working
Hmm.
with those who typically they might have some in-house IT, but they probably don't have an in-house cybersecurity person. Sometimes they
Hmm.
have an in-house compliance or legal
Hmm.
person, but not the cybersecurity dedicated staff. And so that's where we step in. We can do the VC, so where we're
Hmm.
managing the whole process and helping them stay compliant and secure. Then sometimes we're just doing specific projects
Hmm.
Everybody needs pen tests, so that's a huge
Hmm.
thing we're constantly doing. But pen test assessments, the VCSO work, policy development, implementing various different technologies and secure systems, AI work. Yeah.
Awesome. And then how is the client acquisition going for you guys here in 2026? I know there's a lot of MSPs, MSSPs, or other cybersecurity services, businesses out there that are struggling getting their message across, and being able to orchestrate their value, and land some of these clients. How are you guys kind of making your way towards, what I mean, through the weeds?
I think we're doing pretty good. And I mean, we're obviously poised for further growth. It's not
Hmm.
dramatic. It's not like we're going up 300% or anything like that.
Hmm.
But, it's consistent and repeatable.
Awesome. And then what has you learned from, I mean, this is the first company that you've really ever founded, right? So what is some of those lessons that, what I mean, you're continuously learning year after year. What are some of those lessons from the beginning that you've learned all the way up to now 2026?
It's not the first company I founded. I've had a couple other companies, and I've
Oh,
learned a
okay.
few lessons from those. One was an all volunteer thing, which totally does not work, by the way. If you ever try that, because once one person has a life issue, like they have
Uh-huh.
a baby or they get married or they change jobs, it derails the entire thing. So
Mhm.
no, all volunteer things are very difficult to manage. That company, it kind of flopped. That was fantastic entertainment, making some video games and stuff.
Mhm.
Anyway, then I had another consulting company and I have a book company. So let's see, get back to the question. What was it you were asking?
What are some of the experiences and the lessons that you've learned from founding a Nexus Cyber there in 2024?
Lessons learned. Let's see. Integrity is everything. I'm
Mm,
I'm very open and honest with all of my
mhm,
employees about what we're doing, what our goals are. I've seen mismanagement of it in consulting companies, or not the consulting company, in the clients for some of the consulting companies, and they've mismanaged bringing new
mhm,
people on or letting people go and all that. So it's
mhm,
I'm very transparent
mhm.
and want everybody to know what's going on. It's none of the stuff behind closed doors.
How do you guys kind of make sure that trust is there when you guys are first onboarding a new client or when you guys are outreaching to clients?
Well, many will want to see referrals from others, or references,
Mhm,
sample work product and things. That gives them an idea on what to expect, at least from the work product. We have lots of credentials. The whole team has tons of certifications. So that gives them a bit of assurance, but
mhm,
it's that first engagement. They see, how did we communicate? That's a huge thing in pretty much anything you do. How do we communicate expectations? Because we'll take a pen test for example. We need to tell them, here are the potential issues. Sometimes you run into it as a problem, especially if there's something that's misconfigured. A client has the pen test and they suddenly printers start spewing out a bunch of garbage, right? Well, I mean, that's something
mhm,
that can happen if your printers are really poorly misconfigured, or uh, if your has forms that are just not validated. Well, then you may end up getting 10 or 20,000 emails.
mhm,
Like crazy things that can happen if things are really poorly done. And so we will tell them about some of the potential things that could happen, make sure that they know exactly who to contact when we're doing things, where it's coming from, so they can track down, is this them or is this an attacker? We've had that happen before where we're doing
mhm.
a test and somebody is hacking them at the exact same time. And they go, is this you? And we go, actually, no, that's not us. Do you need help?
I've heard that one of the best things that in the IT world is when you can take yourself from talking technical to just talking business with these small businesses, mid-sized businesses. Are you guys kind of seeing the same success of being able just to talk business with them? And not everybody knows this technical IT jargon. Kind of, what are your thoughts on that and of speaking business with these small businesses that you're dealing with?
Well, that's always been my approach. Every issue is a business issue. If it impacts your business, it's a business issue. And so
Mhm,
we have to frame it in that way. What is the impact? Is it you're going to lose your reputation? Is it a damaged brand? Is it operational downtime? Is it, rework and loss of data? All these different things. Those are business impacts rather than saying, hey, there's a vulnerability out there or, there's
mhm,
system problem of some sort. Just telling them that it doesn't communicate anything to an executive. They want to know,
mm.
how does this impact my business? How does this impact my ability to conduct business?
Love it. Love it. Now, you yourself, you've served as an expert witness in a few cyber cases. Can you kind of walk us through that in some of the investigations that you maybe took part of?
So yeah, so I've done forensics and cybersecurity, not as much on the forensic side, but the cybersecurity cases have all involved, oh boy, there's been theft of IP, And when people leave a company sometimes and they take stuff, well, there was one with a wrongful termination where somebody was basically framed, you could say. And you're pulling forensic artifacts and then you're testifying about how you obtain the evidence, what the evidence shows. And sometimes it's getting down to the nitty gritty on very technical topics. So it may say, all right, we see here is a document and it has a creation date of this and a modified date of this. And so that means this. Well,
Uh-huh.
it may not. You have to explain this is when the creation dates are changed. This is when the modified dates are changed and what kind of actions could lead to that. And then interpret that for the public.
Uh,
Things like that. So
okay.
you get into some pretty technical things. Or one was with a class action and a database management system where a larger company said, it's just too exhaustive. We won't be able to get any data out of this database, so we can't produce it. And we took a sample part of it and reworked it and said, yeah, look, we were able to get the data, so you should be able to get it too. Things like that.
Interesting. You know, you have a very vast mind when it comes to IT. Is that a big reason of why you were kind of able to build almost a full leadership team pretty fast from only starting, just a few years back?
No, it just comes to connections. If you work in the
Uh,
industry long enough, you run into a lot of different people, and many of them
uh,
were people I had worked with in the past. Either they had branched off to someplace else, or they basically opportunities came up, and we knew each other, and so they reached out and said, "Hey, here's my situation," and it was like, "Hey, this works, so let's join
uh
together and put together a leadership team like that."
Awesome. And then what are some of these goals that are coming up? It's 2026 and we just finished Q1 of the year. Where's Nexus Cyber wanting to head?
It's definitely more in this AI space. We are, we have our own models that we're developing and tweaking, and then we're pulling down all kinds of other models out there, and we're playing with them and seeing how can we how can we break them, right? How can
Uh,
we make it divulge data that's not supposed to? How can we make it do something that's outside of its parameters and all that?
uh,
So we are testing the heck out of AI so that
uh
we can then apply that in practice and have some real world examples of what could go wrong and help companies to architect their AI systems in the right way.
Awesome. And then are you guys currently using AI in your guys' day to day? If that's with something that you guys servicing clients with, or what you guys are currently using and you're just admin day to day work?
So we use it, yeah. I mean, here and there, I wouldn't say that it's the bedrock of our company or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
It's more on the sidelines, but we are certainly trying to always optimize and automate things that we can. And so, we take some of the simpler tasks and combine them all together. Let's say it's a reporting process of gathering various different pieces of data, or if it's on pulling additional information that can feed into a report, or if it's optimizing various different compliance data streams, things like that. So we're using it for all kinds of things like that.
What is one thing that you wish that you knew now, right? That you would have known when you first started?
I guess how long it takes to truly build up a reputation in the marketplace.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you come in and you kind of think that you can make a few phone calls and get some business, but it takes a bit longer than that.
I think that's the dream for us all that inspire to grow, right? A multi-million dollar business is we wish that we can kind of sit on our behinds, pick up the phone a little bit, do a quick LinkedIn post, and everybody comes pouring in. So when it comes to content, have you guys been posting a lot? And you being an author, right? Writing your own books, where does that kind of play into it? Are you, using some of those writing skills that you have to maybe like post blogs, etc.?
Yeah, I write blogs pretty regularly and post them. The books, they go right along with services that we do. So, I
Uh-huh.
wrote about ransomware and we have handled hundreds and hundreds of ransomware cases. So it's like the information's right there.
Uh-huh.
Privacy, something constantly dealt with. Brand management, we have a service line called reputation management. So it goes right along with it. It's like, you want to know some of the things that I'm telling companies to do? Well, you can read it in the book there too. Now,
Hmm.
uh, it's not going to be customized to your individual organization and all that,
Yeah.
but it's something, I'll give away copies all the time to
Hmm.
clients, help them out with some reputation issue. And I go, here's my cyber brand management book too, or here's one on ransomware, that sort of thing. So I keep a lot of copies laying around.
How has content been helping the company? Have you seen it really land you guys, quite a few more clients? I know that in this day and age, content is almost king because a lot of people want to see a lot of you before they even trust you or before they even work with you, especially if they see you speaking about their certain topic or their space. They're like, okay, this guy knows quite a bit about me. He's an authority. Let me work with him. Are you guys kind of seeing that, or how is content kind of coming along?
Yeah, I feel like it's the bare minimum. that's at least required. People need to know that you're out there and you're willing to share your expertise. And it's not there's stuff you give away. You're like I mentioned the books. Yeah, you can read the
Mhm,
book, but then you also need the expertise. But there, unless one's out there, then how do people know that they can trust you? How do
mhm.
people know that you're willing to give as much as you get? Are you willing to go out there and help the community and help raise the bar in general? I think that's what people are looking for.
Now, when you guys are going after new clients, what's really working right now? Is it referrals? Is it outbound? Is it content? Is it speaking? What's actually filling the pipeline?
There's a lot of face-to-face referrals for sure. Companies
Uh-huh.
we've worked with that then they, goes out to their network or they're talking to somebody. So just lots of running into people, talking to people at conferences and people I meet and they have a problem and you present
Yeah.
a solution.
That's all business is, pain points and solutions.
Right.
A lot of other MSPs or MSSPs, or other companies in the IT service umbrella, they're kind of doing the same thing. They're going out to these conferences, or they're relying on referrals, and to a lot of them, it's kind of feast or famine, right? What are some tips that you would give them that are showing up to the conferences, that are going to speaking events? What are some successes that you see going to them that is kind of giving you an advantage to network better or land more clients?
Well, it's relationship based. So when you meet somebody there and you hand them a business card or they go to your presentation and they see your website and all that, the first meeting you have on them isn't going to end up with a sale. It's
Mhm,
you're going to develop a relationship. And you may get a sale a year later after you tell them about everything. You have multiple touch points throughout the year, and then suddenly they need you.
mm.
So it's being top of mind and having a pre-existing relationship with a lot of these companies that really results in a sale.
And then what are some of the growth goals? Now we kind of talked about your goals with AI and kind of figuring that out and trying to break it and see how you guys can utilize it for these, bigger companies. Now, what are some of your guys' growth goals? What is Nexus Cyber trying to be in the next couple of years here?
It's more of playing in the AI space for sure, pen testing the AI, implementing some better processes and procedures around AI governance. And it's in helping organizations understand the impact of cybersecurity incidents. This is more on the repetition management side, even when they're not your fault. So
Mhm,
let's say somebody does a phishing campaign against some of your customers and they're
mhm,
spoofing your address. Well,
mhm,
it was at no fault of your own. As long as they're relying on public information, let's say, but it's still perceived as your problem. So, you need to kind of take ownership of things even when they're outside of your control and then address that proactively with the customer base. And that's one of the things we're trying to get across to companies is to help them be proactive and communicate properly so that they can avoid unnecessary impact to the brand image.
And then what are some on the flip side of that? What are some of the challenges that you guys kind of been dealing with growing Nexus Cyber?
There's always resource constraints. There's only so much you can do in the day, and that's where
Mhm,
you try to use some of the automation and other things. But there's the human element is is always constrained, and
mhm,
so you're trying to figure out how you can do the most with what you have, but then
mhm,
also strike that work life balance. We don't
mhm,
want people going around working 80-hour weeks every week. That's not healthy and that's not good. So
mhm.
we try to have a good work life balance. Take the time you need, policy things like that where it's like you got something going on. Hey, we're not tracking every little thing. Get your job done and also have a good life.
And what companies are dangerously the most unprotected right now, and why is that?
So one like industry or sector or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm. I mean, there are major problems with critical infrastructure,
Mm,
and you think that that would be a major focus, but you end up running into a lot of antiquated systems that just have never been changed or upgraded, and
mhm,
so they're still running on these. Sometimes with the hope that it's too old, nobody will actually try to exploit this, but they're so easily exploited, and it's a major problem. But it's very difficult for some of these places. We're talking about like a rural water authority or a old county system or something like that. It's very hard for them to get the budget and get the expertise to go and switch these things over, and so they languish and create terrible vulnerabilities.
mm. What is one thing that you wish that the companies that you serve knew about cybersecurity?
Well, that it's not just an IT problem, I think would be
Mm,
the biggest thing. So many companies want to offload this and say, okay, well, IT's got it covered. But cybersecurity isn't an IT problem. It's a company problem, and it needs executive support. It needs executives to demonstrate that it's important. Otherwise, nobody will ever take it seriously. It has to be part of the culture. You can't just silo this to IT and assume that they have it handled, because, and they might tell you, oh yeah, we're secure, but IT has visibility only on the technical, not on the business as a whole.
And Eric, if the audience wants to hear more about you or see what Nexus Cyber is up to, where can they find you?
They can find us at www.nexuscyber.com. That's NEXUSCYBER.com. They can email us. I'm Eric at nexuscyber.com. Find us on Twitter and LinkedIn. Just look for Nexus Cyber.
Awesome. Well, Eric, it was awesome having you on and your expertise in the field and your insight. So I thank you.
Oh, thank you.